While the bus took up a lot of our time, we did have some other elements of the project that we needed to work on. As 2012 was fast approaching, we knew that we had just over a year left before we would leave. This meant we had to consolidate some of our ideas and really make sure that people knew about our project.
We knew that we were ultimately going to want to launch a fundraising campaign, so we began to lay the groundwork in fall of 2011. Alex launched our Twitter accounts in November, and we began to learn as much as we could about social media and its uses. Hint: it's not about what you say, but about what you learn and the connections you make.
We also had the good fortune of adding another member to our team. Despite the fact that Ryder wasn't even out of school yet, we had an intern. Sarah Kyle brought her documentary expertise to Canadian Framelines that fall, and together we prepared for the busy year ahead.
Once New Year's hit, one of the very first things that we started doing was a series of videos that we called our weekly video updates, which many of you may be familiar with because we pepper your inboxes with them. Essentially, they were blog posts that we would read into a camera every Sunday. It was easier than writing. It just gave us a chance to keep up with the project and keep other people up to date, and also to show images of what we were doing. The first one was produced on New Year's Day 2012, and we expect them to continue into 2014 when the project wraps up.
That spring, Ryder was working feverishly to complete his grad film. And in April, we found ourselves in Victoria and decided that what better place than the capital of British Columbia to go out and gauge people's opinions on Canadian identity. So we went out with a camera and a microphone and did our first of many man-on-the-street interviews.
Once we had the first few together, it became apparent that we weren't really getting a portrait of Canadian identity so much as a portrait of how unknown Canadian identity is. So Alex and Sierra took to the streets of Vancouver to gather up some more interviews. The footage we gathered was ultimately compiled into a promotional trailer that we released in May.
The trailer was a launching point for our crowdsourcing fundraiser, which we were setting up on Indiegogo.com, and would launch on Canada Day of that year. So I spent the rest of the spring building up our social media presence and researching how to crowdsource effectively.
The principle of crowdsourcing is that instead of taking your funding request to a major agency or sponsor, many individuals contribute small donations to help you reach your total goal. We knew a few people who had attempted this kind of thing, but not really anybody who was terribly successful at it, so we had to do quite a bit of research and inquiring.
Our goal was high, $30,000, but we knew if we could raise that much money, we'd be set for the next year of our project. So, on July 1st, with the optimism in our hearts, we rode down to Granville Island to celebrate Canada Day with the pet.
We had negotiated with the Granville Island administration to take part in their Canada Day festivities. Our contributions included a hand-drawn film animation workshop for kids, the films from which were screened at that moment inside the bus. So it was a great way to really talk to people, draw people in, and get the word out about the project.
The next couple of weeks involved a frenzy of activity around the fundraiser. We blitzed the media with many press releases, which resulted in a few interviews. But this cycle of media attention and donations really took a toll on our sanity.
Every donation or call we would get would make us ecstatic, but there were definitely days that we would just sit at the computer thinking, why has no one donated yet? It was really, truthfully, kind of frustrating experience, but ultimately we learned to distance ourselves from it, which I guess is what you have to do in those situations.
We had another festival to be part of, the White Rock Spirit of the Sea Festival, which takes place the first weekend in August every year. Spirit of the Sea is a huge festival, encompassing the whole of White Rock waterfront, but we specifically entered the Pirates in the Park Kids area, where we were able to hold another workshop like the one we had done on Canada Day.
I remember a kid there saying, "Oh wow, this is why they call a movie a film." So after Spirit of the Sea, we had about a week and a half left in our fundraiser, and we were pretty far from reaching our goal. I think at that point we had $6,000. So in kind of an angry mood while talking with a friend of ours, we decided to filibuster for attention by talking at the Vancouver Art Gallery.
Initially, we intended to go down and read texts from Canada's history, but we found after being down there that we could talk to a surprising number of people just by pitching them the project. So, after a few days, we were able to raise a couple $100s in cash donations.
But we couldn't keep that up through the end of the fundraiser. We already had family obligations for that time, so actually the last few days of the fundraiser were spent in Osoyoos, BC. In total, we managed to raise close to $10,000, including our cash donations. It was a huge boost to us, and we learned some pretty invaluable lessons in crowdsourcing and relating to the media.
Most importantly, it taught us to just keep trying.